The planet Virelia shone like a jewel in the dark reaches of space. Its towering crystal cities reflected the twin suns, scattering golden light over floating gardens and glass-like canals. Within this beauty lived the Virelian royal family, proud, intelligent, and sometimes cruel in their amusement. Their society valued perfection, intellect, and power above all else. And yet they found humor in the weaknesses of others, especially humans. It was in the Grand Council Hall high above the city that the latest jest was being plotted. High Chancellor Varen, a sharp-minded elder with eyes like polished silver, leaned over a holographic map of the human colony on nearby Terran Prime. Around him, the council members chuckled, their laughter echoing against the crystal walls. "They are so primitive," said Lady Myra, her voice dripping with mockery. "One human among us expected to care for a royal princess. It will be hilarious. The council's target was Princess Liara, the youngest of the royal line. Liara had always been exceptional in many ways, intelligent, compassionate, and curious. But there was one mark against her. She was considered infertile. Doctors and scientists had confirmed it repeatedly, and in a society that prized family continuity, this was seen as a flaw. "They say she cannot bear children," Varen continued. "Yet we shall see if a human can teach her. Or if he fails spectacularly. A perfect wager." The council murmured in agreement, enjoying the thought of humiliating both the princess and the human species at once. The human chosen for this experiment was Captain Marcus Hale, a soldier known among humans for his bravery, intelligence, and unwavering sense of honor. He had never expected that his disciplined life of military service would lead him to Virelia, much less into a situation of ridicule. Marcus arrived on Virelia under official escort, his uniform crisp, his posture disciplined. He had heard rumors of alien arrogance, but nothing could have prepared him for the beauty and the strangeness of the Virelian capital. The floating platforms, the gardens suspended in air, and the translucent towers all seemed impossible. He could not deny a sense of awe, even as he reminded himself to remain focused on the task ahead. The first meeting with Princess Liara was tense. She stood in a chamber that gleamed with crystalline walls and softly glowing floors. Her hair shimmered like spun silver, her eyes a deep violet that seemed to see beyond the surface. She regarded Marcus with polite curiosity, but also with the sharp suspicion that came from a lifetime of strict training and societal expectation. Marcus bowed respectfully. "Princess Liara, I am Captain Marcus Hale of the Terran Defense Corps. I have come at the request of your council, though I must admit I am unsure why they have chosen me." Liara's lips curved in a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Perhaps they think humans are incapable of understanding responsibility," she said. "Or perhaps they think it will amuse them to watch a failure." Her words carried no bitterness, only the quiet confidence of someone who had endured ridicule before. Marcus nodded, sensing both the challenge and the opportunity. "I assure you, Princess, I intend to treat this assignment with respect," Marcus said. "I do not know much about Virelian customs, but I do know how to work with others, and I will not underestimate you, or myself." Liara studied him for a long moment, as if weighing his sincerity. "Many have underestimated me," she said softly. "But you speak differently. We shall see if your actions match your words." The first days were awkward. Marcus had to learn Virelian etiquette, which involved subtle gestures, verbal cues, and a strict understanding of hierarchy. Every misstep was observed by attendants and hidden cameras, though Marcus didn't know it at first. Liara, accustomed to solitude and careful study, was equally cautious. Despite the tension, small moments of connection began to appear. Marcus noticed that Liara enjoyed exploring ideas freely, even if she had to hide it from her council. She was curious about human technology, amused by simple jokes, and fascinated by the concept of choice in everyday life, something Virelians often gave little thought to, as their lives were guided by strict protocol. One evening, while walking through a suspended garden filled with luminous flowers, Marcus spoke. "On Earth, humans often take risks even when failure is possible. We believe trying is more important than perfection." Liara glanced at him, intrigued. "And do you believe failure is ever acceptable, Captain?" "Only if we learn from it," Marcus replied. "A life without learning is a life wasted." Liara smiled a little more openly this time. It was the first sign that the wall she had built around herself was not entirely unmovable. Meanwhile, the council watched from afar, growing impatient. They had expected instant conflict, maybe even public humiliation, but instead something unexpected was happening. Marcus and Liara were adapting. They were communicating, learning, and in subtle ways understanding each other. Baron's voice was sharp in the council chamber. "This is not going as planned. The human is not failing, he is learning." Lady Myra frowned. "Then perhaps we must intervene more directly." But for now, Marcus and Liara were left to their own devices. Each day the two shared conversations that went beyond formality. Marcus explained how humans valued family, trust, and courage. Liara shared stories of her people's history, their struggles, and the unspoken pressures of royalty. Marcus noticed that Liara's hands often trembled slightly when she spoke of her infertility. It was a subtle sign, but one he recognized from years of observing people under stress. He did not comment, but he made a mental note to treat her fears with care. Over time, Liara began to relax around him. She laughed at his clumsy attempts at Varelian table manners, and she asked questions about human life that revealed both curiosity and admiration. Marcus, in turn, found himself respecting her more each day. She was intelligent, capable, and unafraid to question assumptions, even about herself. The turning point came during a lesson in Varelian history. Marcus had stumbled through the pronunciation of several names, earning quiet stares from attendants. Liara, however, corrected him patiently, guiding him through the syllables with gentle precision. "You are not afraid to fail," she said quietly. "And that makes you unusual," Marcus smiled. "And you are willing to teach even when the lesson is difficult. That makes you remarkable." For a moment, silence hung between them. The artificial distance imposed by the council and tradition seemed to dissolve, replaced by a fragile connection built on respect and trust. But the council was not idle. Behind closed doors, they plotted to accelerate their experiment. Sabotage, misinformation, and challenges were being prepared to test Marcus's limits and force failure. They assumed he would break under pressure, as humans were supposedly weaker and less adaptable than Varelians. Marcus, however, remained unaware of these plots. His focus was on understanding Liara, her world, and the subtle signals that revealed her thoughts and emotions. He began to see that the princess, despite the council's labeling, was not infertile in spirit. She was vibrant, intelligent, and full of potential. One evening, as twin moons reflected in the crystalline canals below, Liara spoke softly to Marcus. "You treat me as a person, not a prize or a joke," she said. "That has been new for me." Marcus shook his head. "You are not a joke, princess, and I do not see prizes. I see a person capable of incredible strength, even if others refuse to see it." Liara's eyes glimmered with emotion she rarely showed. "Perhaps the joke is not on you or me. Perhaps it is on those who fail to see the truth." As part one drew to a close, the foundations of a unique partnership were being laid. Marcus had come as a soldier, expecting protocol and humor at his expense. Liara had been assigned him as a mockery, expecting failure. Yet against the intentions of the council, they had begun to understand each other in ways neither expected. Respect, curiosity, and a fragile trust had emerged where the council had anticipated humiliation. And deep in the crystal halls of Varelia, a faint spark of possibility glimmered, one that would challenge not only the council's assumptions but the very beliefs of an entire world. The joke, as it turned out, might not be on Marcus or Liara at all. The days on Varelia moved like the slow drift of the twin moons across the sky. For Captain Marcus Hale, time was no longer just measured by duty or routine. It was measured by the subtle changes in Princess Liara. Each morning, he awoke to the soft glow of crystal light filling his quarters, a quiet reminder that this world was unlike any he had ever known. Liara, too, felt a subtle shift. The human she had been told to expect as a failure was different. He was patient, careful, and most importantly, he listened. That simple act, listening, was foreign to her, a rarity in a life often filled with orders, expectations, and whispered mockery. One morning, Liara entered the floating garden that hovered above the main palace plaza. The garden was a wonder, with flowers that glimmered like starlight and vines that responded to touch with gentle motion. Marcus was already there, examining the delicate plants with curious precision. "You are fascinated by everything," Liara observed, stepping lightly on the crystal walkway. "Even these plants?" Marcus looked up and smiled. "Life is life, princess. Even plants have ways of surviving, adapting, and sometimes surprising us. I think there is much we can learn from them. Liara tilted her head. Humans find lessons in everything. Sometimes I think you see the world differently than we do. And you? Marcus asked. Do you see humans differently now? Liara paused, her violet eyes thoughtful. I did not expect kindness or patience, but you have shown both without trying to gain favor or advantage. Marcus nodded. I have learned that respect is more powerful than fear, and perhaps trust is even stronger than authority. For a moment, the garden seemed to grow quieter, as if listening to their conversation. Liara's usual stiffness softened. She had spent years hiding her fears, especially the secret of her infertility, a stigma that followed her like a shadow. Yet with Marcus, she felt no judgment, only understanding. Over the next several days, Marcus continued to learn Varelian customs while introducing Liara to human ways of thinking. He taught her about decision-making based on empathy, the importance of collaboration, and the strength of personal initiative. Liara absorbed these lessons eagerly, impressed by the clarity and practicality of his perspective. It was not just a teacher-student relationship. They began to share stories about their respective worlds. Marcus described Earth's oceans, mountains, and forests, places Liara could only imagine. In return, Liara explained Virelia's history, the importance of the twin suns, and the delicate balance of politics that governed her people. You speak of your world with such pride, Marcus said one afternoon as they walked along a sky bridge that overlooked the city. Yet you also speak of your burdens with honesty. That is rare. Liara's lips curved in a small smile. Burden and honor often come together. To be royal is to carry expectations heavier than most can imagine. Marcus considered her words. Sometimes people forget that royalty does not make one invincible. It only makes one visible. Liara looked at him, and for the first time her eyes held something deeper than curiosity or caution. There was a flicker of trust, perhaps even the beginnings of hope. Meanwhile, the council watched from afar, increasingly frustrated. Their plan had been simple: assign an infertile princess to a human and watch the inevitable embarrassment unfold. Instead, they saw Marcus treating Liara with respect, and Liara responding with engagement, intelligence, and even amusement at his occasional mistakes in etiquette. Varen, the High Chancellor, was the first to voice concern. This human, he is not failing. He is adapting. And worse, the princess is responding positively. Lady Myra's fingers tapped the crystal table nervously. We must act. We cannot allow them to form a bond. It will undermine our entire point. Yet for now, Marcus and Liara continued to meet in small, private settings, away from the council's scrutiny. One evening, Marcus led Liara to a small terrace overlooking the floating gardens below. The city shimmered in the twin moon's light, and the gentle hum of wind through crystalline towers created a peaceful melody. You remind me of why humans explore, Liara said softly. Not just to conquer or to study, but to understand and connect. You approach everything with curiosity and care, Marcus smiled. I believe understanding is the foundation of progress. And sometimes understanding leads to unexpected friendships. Or more. Liara's cheeks warmed slightly. You speak boldly for someone from a distant planet. And yet, Princess, boldness is only dangerous when it is reckless, Marcus said. The right kind of boldness can change worlds. For the first time, Liara felt the possibility of a world beyond the rigid expectations of her council. The possibility of a life that was hers to shape, not dictated by tradition or rumor. Their growing bond was tested when Liara confided a secret she had never shared with anyone, her longing to experience parenthood. Though she had been told she could not bear children, she had always dreamed of nurturing, teaching, and loving life. The council's cruel labeling as infertile had made her fear speaking these thoughts aloud, even to those she trusted. Marcus listened without judgment. Hope does not require guarantees, Princess. Sometimes the act of trying, the act of believing, is what gives life meaning. Liara's eyes glimmered. You speak as if human hope is different from Varelian caution. Marcus nodded. We take risks because we have to. We face uncertainty and move forward anyway. It is not reckless, it is necessary. The princess considered his words long after he had finished. That night she walked among the floating gardens alone, feeling a new sense of possibility. Perhaps her destiny was not solely determined by biology or tradition. Perhaps she could redefine herself with a human by her side. As the days passed, small acts of human ingenuity began to impress Liara. Marcus devised ways to organize the palace archives more efficiently, suggested improvements to the water channels in the floating gardens, and even assisted with minor repairs to delicate crystal machinery. Each act demonstrated patience, intelligence, and adaptability, qualities the council had assumed humans lacked. Liara began to see Marcus not as a joke, not as an outsider, but as a partner. She admired his resourcefulness, his calm demeanor under pressure, and the unwavering integrity that guided every decision he made. One afternoon, while they worked together in the palace library, Marcus stumbled upon an ancient Varelian text about the history of interstellar diplomacy. Liara observed him as he carefully traced his fingers over the intricate symbols. "You are not afraid to approach knowledge differently," Liara said. "Most of our people treat these texts as untouchable relics. You experiment, adapt, and learn from them." Marcus looked up, meeting her gaze. "Knowledge is meant to be understood and applied, not hidden or feared. Sometimes the lessons we learn come from unexpected places, or unexpected people." Liara smiled, a genuine smile that lit her face. "Perhaps I have underestimated humans," she admitted quietly. Marcus's expression was thoughtful. "Perhaps the council has underestimated you as well, Princess. Strength is not always visible. It is often quiet, patient, and persistent." Their conversations, small acts of cooperation, and shared laughter slowly began to form a bond neither had anticipated. Trust was growing alongside respect, creating a fragile but real connection. For Liara, it was liberating to interact with someone who saw her as more than her label of infertility. For Marcus, it was inspiring to witness the strength and intelligence of an alien culture, embodied in a single remarkable individual. Yet the council's influence still loomed. Secretly, Varen and Myra planned to escalate their test. Sabotages, challenges, and manipulations were being prepared to force Marcus into failure. They expected that the pressure would reveal human weaknesses and expose Liara's true limitations. Marcus and Liara were unaware of these schemes. Their focus remained on understanding each other, learning new skills, and quietly defying the assumptions imposed upon them. Every day, Marcus showed patience in the face of subtle challenges, and Liara responded with curiosity, courage, and an increasing willingness to trust. One evening, as the twin moons reflected in the crystal canals below, Liara spoke softly, almost as if to herself. "You treat me as a person, not a puzzle or a prize," she said. "That is new for me." Marcus, sensing the sincerity in her tone, responded gently. "You are not a puzzle, Princess, and you are certainly not a prize. You are someone who deserves respect, trust, and the chance to define your own future." Liara's eyes shimmered in the moonlight, reflecting the growing bond between them. Perhaps the joke was never on us. Perhaps it was on those who cannot see the truth in courage and kindness. As the night deepened, the palace shimmered quietly, unaware that the foundations of change were being laid within its walls. Marcus and Liara had begun to form a partnership that went beyond duty or expectation. Trust, respect, and the first hints of friendship were taking root, preparing them for the challenges and surprises that would soon come. The council might have intended this as a game, a joke at human expense, but Marcus and Liara were rewriting the rules. They were discovering that courage, empathy, and intelligence could bridge worlds, even when others doubted it entirely. And somewhere deep within the palace, a faint spark of possibility glimmered, hinting at a future that neither humans nor Varelians could have predicted. The twin suns of Varelia rose slowly, spilling golden light over the floating city, casting long reflections across crystal towers and shimmering canals. It should have been a day like any other, but Marcus Hale felt a strange tension in the air, a faint hum in the ground beneath the palace that he had never noticed before. Princess Liara noticed it too. Standing on the terrace of the royal palace, she gazed at the horizon, where clouds began to form in unusual patterns. "The council's weather monitors indicate a storm," she said cautiously. "But it is unlike anything we have seen before." Marcus stepped beside her, scanning the sky with a soldier's instinct. "It looks dangerous." "What kind of storm?" Liara frowned. "A cosmic storm. Rare, powerful, and unpredictable. Our shields are designed for smaller storms, but this could damage the city itself." Marcus's eyes narrowed. Then we need a plan, fast. The palace staff moved quickly, preparing the energy shields and warning citizens. But the technology of Virelia, advanced as it was, struggled to adapt to the storm's unusual energy patterns. Marcus, observing quietly, noticed the systems were being overburdened by the intensity of the storm. He stepped forward. "Let me try something," he said calmly. Liara looked at him, slightly skeptical but willing to trust him. "You understand our technology?" she asked. Marcus shook his head. "Not fully, but humans think differently. Sometimes a fresh perspective is all you need." With that, he began to examine the palace's control nodes, twisting, testing, and improvising. The Virelian engineers watched in astonishment as Marcus suggested rerouting power flows, modifying shield patterns and coordinating energy distribution in ways they had never considered. Liara, impressed, worked alongside him, translating the alien systems and helping Marcus apply his ideas. Hours passed like minutes and the storm drew closer, thrashing the upper atmosphere of Virelia with electric tendrils and bursts of cosmic radiation. The council observed from the grand hall, their faces pale. Viren's voice shook with disbelief. "The human, he is adapting the system." "And it is working," Lady Myra clenched her fists. "Impossible! He should fail. He is not even Virelian." Below them the city trembled. Energy arcs leaped from crystal towers, threatening to fry circuits and disrupt the floating gardens. Citizens huddled in protective chambers, uncertain if the shields would hold. Marcus moved with quiet determination, calmly issuing instructions. Divert 50% of power to the outer shields. Sync the inner nodes to create a wave pattern. Liara, coordinate the secondary channels. It will stabilize the energy flow. Liara followed his lead, her hands steady despite the storm's intensity. "I never imagined this approach," she admitted. "It is human," Marcus smiled briefly. "Human, alien? It doesn't matter. Logic and courage are universal." By combining Marcus's unconventional strategies and Liara's knowledge of Virelian technology, the palace shields began to stabilize. The storm's first wave hit with violent force, but the energy flowed through the system smoothly. The citizens of Virelia watched in awe as the floating city shook but did not fall. When the storm finally began to pass, the palace and its gardens were intact, with only minor damage to some outer structures. Marcus and Liara stood together, exhausted but relieved. Liara turned to him, her eyes wide. "You saved lives today. Not just mine, but everyone's. I never expected this from a human." Marcus shook his head. "I didn't do it for praise. I did it because it was right. Because life matters, no matter the planet or species." Her expression softened, and for the first time Liara allowed herself to feel admiration without restraint. Marcus was no longer just a soldier sent as a joke. He was a protector. Someone whose mind and heart could solve problems where technology alone could not. That evening, in the quiet of the palace library, Liara reflected on what had happened. She had always assumed humans were primitive, unable to understand Virelian complexity. Yet Marcus had demonstrated something extraordinary: creativity, courage, and adaptability beyond what her own people had expected from anyone. "I must admit," she said quietly, "the council was wrong about you. And perhaps about me too." Marcus looked up from the archives he had been studying. Sometimes the expectations of others are less important than what we discover ourselves. Liara nodded, her thoughts drifting. She had always believed she was infertile, that her body had betrayed her, yet during the storm she had felt something strange, a subtle reaction in her body, a pulse of life she had not expected. It was fleeting, almost imperceptible, but it made her wonder, could the council's judgment have been mistaken? Marcus noticed her introspection. "You're thinking about possibilities," he said gently. Liara smiled faintly. "Perhaps the future is not entirely closed to me. Perhaps there is more to hope for than I realized." Their bond deepened in the following days. Marcus continued to assist Liara in daily life, helping her navigate both Virelian culture and her own personal struggles. They discussed philosophies, shared stories, and quietly challenged one another to see beyond limitations. Liara began to open up about her secret desire for parenthood. "Even if I cannot bear children, I have always wished to nurture, to teach, to care for life in some way. It is a dream I dared not speak aloud." Marcus listened without interruption, his gaze steady and compassionate. "A desire for life is never foolish. And who says dreams cannot take different forms? Even if one path is blocked, there are others that can still bring fulfillment. She looked at him, eyes shining. You speak as if hope is stronger than circumstance, Marcus smiled. It is. Humans survive because we adapt, because we keep moving forward even when the odds are against us. And sometimes, hope creates miracles. Liara felt a warmth she had never experienced. For the first time, she imagined a life where limitations were not the end of possibility, where a human and an alien could forge something remarkable together. But the Council had not forgotten their plans. From the Grand Hall, Viren and Lady Myra plotted new schemes intending to test Marcus and Liara further. They believed that even if Marcus had saved the city, he could still fail under personal or emotional pressure. Unaware of the Council's intentions, Marcus and Liara spent time in the palace observatories, studying Virelia's twin moons and the cosmic energy that occasionally surged across the skies. They discussed theories of life, energy, and the connection between all living beings. Marcus's human perspective often offered insights that even the most experienced Virelians had overlooked. You see patterns where others see chaos, Liara noted one evening. You anticipate outcomes before they occur. Marcus shrugged modestly.
I just try to think ahead.
Preparation and observation can solve many problems. And sometimes, it helps to listen carefully. Liara smiled softly, a smile of genuine affection and respect. Perhaps humans have gifts we do not fully appreciate. Their growing partnership was put to another test when a minor aftershock from the storm caused a critical system in the palace to fail. The floating gardens began to destabilize, and a section of the crystal walkway started to shift dangerously. Marcus acted immediately, coordinating repairs and stabilizing the structure with Liara's guidance. The palace engineers, initially skeptical of human methods, watched in astonishment as Marcus applied practical solutions, combining logic with creative thinking. Within hours, the gardens were secure, and the walkway was stabilized. Liara, standing beside him, could not hide her admiration. You do not fail even when the odds are stacked against you, she said softly. Marcus shook his head. I do not think of it as success or failure. I think of it as solving a problem. Life rarely offers guarantees, only choices. Liara nodded, understanding more about him than she had ever understood about anyone else. In that moment, she realized that the Council's attempt to humiliate Marcus had failed spectacularly. Not only had he survived, but he had thrived, revealing strengths that the Virelians had never imagined. That night, as they walked through the quiet halls of the palace, Liara spoke with a new sense of wonder. Perhaps the Council's view of humans is limited. Perhaps they judge too quickly. Marcus smiled. Perhaps. But you are different from them, Princess. You see potential where others see limitation. Liara felt a quiet hope rising within her. For the first time, she considered that her so-called infertility might not define her entire existence. Perhaps with Marcus by her side, possibilities she had never imagined could become reality. And so, in the aftermath of the cosmic storm, a new chapter began. Marcus's human ingenuity had not only saved Virelia, but it also opened the door to trust, hope, and the potential for life in unexpected ways. The Council's assumptions were unraveling, and the bond between human and alien was growing stronger every day. The twin moons reflected in the crystal towers, casting silver light across the palace. Marcus and Liara stood together on a balcony, gazing at the horizon. They did not speak, yet the silence was comfortable. Both understood that the world had shifted, that they had proven something important. Courage, creativity, and compassion could transcend species and expectations. And somewhere deep within the palace, a quiet spark of life flickered, hinting at a future that neither humans nor Virelians could yet imagine. The Council had given a joke, a test of humiliation. But Marcus and Liara had turned it into an opportunity, and in doing so, they had begun a journey that... The storm had passed, but its aftereffects lingered across the floating city of Virelia. Crystals shimmered with the faint energy of residual cosmic radiation, and some of the palace gardens had suffered minor damage. Yet amidst the aftermath, something more remarkable was beginning to grow. Trust, understanding, and a unique bond between Princess Liara and Captain Marcus Hale. Marcus had spent days assisting Liara in reorganizing the palace archives, repairing minor damages from the storm, and helping engineers stabilize energy conduits. Though these tasks were technical, they revealed a deeper truth to Liara. Humans thought differently, creatively, and without fear of failure. You approach challenges as if they have solutions, not as if they are obstacles, Liara observed one morning as she guided Marcus through a delicate energy node calibration. Marcus adjusted the node carefully, then smiled. Problems exist to be solved. Life doesn't always give us instructions, so we make our own path. Liara considered this as she worked beside him. Perhaps that is why humans succeed in ways we never imagined. You do not accept limits as permanent. Their cooperation continued to deepen and small personal moments emerged. Marcus learned which flowers Liara preferred in her private garden, and Liara discovered Marcus's habit of sketching simple diagrams to explain complex solutions. These small acts revealed a shared appreciation for life, curiosity, and beauty, qualities neither expected to find in the other. But Liara also carried a secret. During the storm, she had experienced subtle physiological reactions that puzzled her. Though the council had declared her infertile, a faint spark of possibility had appeared, a hint that perhaps she could bear children after all. She had been too cautious to mention it at first, uncertain if she was imagining the signs. One quiet evening, Marcus found her in the palace garden examining a cluster of luminous flowers. "Princess, you seem thoughtful," he said gently. Liara hesitated, then spoke. "During the storm, I felt something. I do not know if it is possible, but perhaps the council was wrong. Perhaps my body is capable of life." Marcus studied her face, recognizing both the hope and fear in her eyes. "Even if they were wrong, it does not change who you are. But if this is true, it could mean more than anyone expected." Liara smiled faintly. "I have never dared to dream of children. The council's judgment made it seem impossible. But now I wonder if there is a chance, and if so, I am not sure what to do next." Marcus placed a steady hand over hers. "We take it one step at a time. We learn, we prepare, and we trust. Life has a way of surprising us when we are ready to act." Their growing closeness, however, did not go unnoticed. From the Grand Hall, Chancellor Varen and Lady Myra watched the duo with increasing frustration. The human had survived the storm, stabilized the city, and now appeared to be influencing the princess in ways the council could not control. "We cannot allow this," Varen said, voice tight with anger. "The human's presence undermines everything we believe about Varillian superiority. And the princess, she is showing independence, curiosity, even emotion. It is unacceptable." Lady Myra nodded. "We must intervene subtly. We cannot appear to force them apart, but we can create obstacles that will test the human's limits." The council began crafting challenges designed to distract, pressure, and even intimidate Marcus, hoping he would falter and remind Liara why humans were supposedly inferior. But Marcus's human ingenuity, patience, and integrity continued to shine, as did Liara's growing courage. One challenge arrived in the form of a complex Varillian ceremonial ritual. The ceremony required perfect timing, knowledge of alien energy patterns, and precise coordination with palace systems. It was designed to appear simple to the council, but was intentionally complicated, meant to confuse a human outsider. Marcus studied the instructions carefully. "This is more complicated than it seems," he admitted. "But it is not impossible. If we follow the patterns and observe carefully, we can succeed." Liara, impressed, worked with him to decode the ceremonial sequences. Together they discovered that a subtle adaptation of timing and resource allocation allowed them to complete the ritual flawlessly. Marcus had not only met the challenge but had improved the system's efficiency, impressing palace engineers and attendants alike. "It seems you are always finding ways to exceed expectations," Liara said, smiling. Marcus shook his head. "I am only doing what seems right. Success is secondary to learning and understanding." The princess began to feel a surge of confidence in herself. For the first time, she recognized that her value was not tied to what others believed she could do or her so-called infertility. Her courage, intelligence, and adaptability were strengths in their own right, and with Marcus by her side, she felt capable of achieving even more. This partnership soon extended into personal exploration. Using a combination of human and Varillian science, Marcus and Liara began investigating her physiology quietly, seeking answers about the possibility of life despite the council's assumptions. They studied cellular patterns, energy flows, and subtle biological signals, blending alien knowledge with human intuition. The results surprised them. There were anomalies, tiny, almost imperceptible, but they indicated that Liara's reproductive system could indeed support life. It was a revelation, one that had never been documented in Varelian science. Liara's eyes glimmered with a mix of fear, hope, and excitement. It is possible. I never thought, yet it seems I could. Marcus placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We will explore this together, carefully, patiently. Whatever happens, we face it together. For Liara, this was more than science. It was the first real spark of hope she had felt in her life. For Marcus, it was a testament to human perseverance and empathy, showing that curiosity, courage, and care could uncover truths even the most rigid traditions had overlooked. Their bond grew stronger, and small moments of joy punctuated their studies. Marcus taught Liara simple human exercises for relaxation. She introduced him to meditative practices unique to Viralia, and together they shared meals, stories, and laughter that had nothing to do with duty or expectation. Yet the council remained a looming shadow. Viran and Lady Myra decided to escalate their interference, arranging a public challenge that would combine politics, ceremony, and spectacle. They intended for Marcus to fail in front of the court, embarrassing him and undermining the princess. Marcus, unaware of the council's plan, focused on preparation and learning. Liara stood beside him, confident in his ability and her own. We can face whatever comes, she said quietly. We have prepared, learned, and trusted each other. That is stronger than anything the council can throw at us. Marcus smiled. Trust, patience, and courage. That is all we need. And if we fail, we will learn, not despair. The day of the challenge arrived. The entire palace was filled with dignitaries, engineers, and attendants. The council watched closely, anticipating failure. The task was simple in theory. Coordinate multiple energy nodes while performing ceremonial duties, with precision that would normally take years of training. The human was expected to falter. Marcus approached the nodes with calm focus. Liara assisted, offering guidance and insight where needed. Step by step, they moved through the sequence, their actions precise and coordinated. The court gasped in astonishment as Marcus adjusted energy flows in ways Varelian engineers had never considered. By the end of the ceremony, not only had Marcus succeeded, but he had also improved the system's efficiency and stability. Liara's presence at his side highlighted their partnership, and the court could not deny the result. The human had not failed. He had excelled. The council's whispers turned to shock and silence. Viran's face paled and Lady Myra's hands trembled slightly. Their assumptions about human inferiority were crumbling before their eyes. Liara, standing beside Marcus, felt a surge of pride and independence. She had learned to trust herself, to embrace possibility, and to value courage and ingenuity over tradition and expectation. After the challenge, Liara and Marcus retreated to the palace garden, the city quiet beneath the twin moons. Liara turned to him, her voice soft but steady. You have shown me what is possible, Marcus. Not just through skill or courage, but through patience, care, and trust. Marcus shook his head humbly. You have shown me the same, Princess. Your intelligence, courage, and openness make this partnership possible. We did this together. For Liara, the thought was exhilarating. She had begun to see herself as capable, not defined by labels or judgments, and for the first time she allowed herself to dream. Not just of possibility, but of life, of nurturing, and perhaps even of motherhood. The council had tried to manipulate, to control, to undermine. But Marcus and Liara had turned every expectation upside down. Human ingenuity and compassion, combined with Varelian intelligence and courage, had defied the assumptions of an entire world. As the night deepened, the palace shimmered quietly under the twin moons. Marcus and Liara walked together side by side, aware that the path ahead would not be simple. Yet they also understood that they had already accomplished something remarkable. They had proven that trust, courage, and collaboration could surpass tradition, expectation, and prejudice. And somewhere deep within Liara, a new spark of life flickered, a sign that the impossible might not be impossible after all. The twin suns of Virelia rose slowly over the city, casting golden light on the crystal towers and floating gardens. The air was calm, almost serene, yet beneath the surface the palace was alive with quiet excitement. Princess Liara was returning from a long period of private study and preparation, a period during which she had explored her newfound potential for life with Marcus by her side. Marcus Hale walked beside her, steady, calm, and watchful. Though he had faced storms, sabotage, and countless challenges, this moment was different. It was not a test of skill, strategy, or ingenuity. This was a moment of hope, of celebration, and of the future itself. Liara's gown shimmered like sunlight on crystal, and her eyes shone with a mix of pride, anticipation, and quiet wonder. Within her, a spark of life had grown stronger, a living symbol of the possibilities she had once thought impossible. The council, dignitaries, and citizens awaited their return, unaware of the profound changes this partnership would bring. As they entered the grand hall, a hush fell. Whispers spread quickly through the crowd. The infertile princess had returned, and she was not alone. Marcus, the human the council had intended as a joke, walked confidently at her side. High Chancellor Varen's expression was unreadable, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed shock. Lady Myra's hands tightened around the crystal railing, disbelief written across her face. The council had expected spectacle, failure, and humiliation. Instead, they were faced with undeniable truth. Humans and their compassion, ingenuity, and courage could not be dismissed. Liara's voice rang out, calm and steady, carrying across the hall. Citizens of Aurelia, members of the council, and honored guests, I return not as a subject of mockery nor as a symbol of limitation. I return as a mother, as someone who has discovered the potential within herself and the strength that can be found in partnership. The crowd was silent, stunned by her words. The idea that the infertile princess could bear a child defied tradition and expectation. Marcus stood beside her, a steady presence, his human expression calm but proud. From the shadows of the council hall, Varen finally spoke, his voice controlled but tinged with disbelief. Princess, this is unexpected. We were told. Liara met his gaze with confidence. You were told many things about me, about humans, and about possibility. Yet life, courage, and trust often defy prediction. Today we demonstrate that expectation is not destiny. A murmur spread through the audience. Engineers, attendants, and scholars all whispered, astonished by the bold declaration. Marcus had not only survived the council's challenges, he had helped Liara uncover a truth that was bigger than either of them alone. Liara continued, her gaze moving through the hall. This child is not simply mine or Marcus's. It is a symbol of unity between our worlds. It is a testament to the strength that can arise when respect, courage, and intelligence guide our actions. As she spoke, attendants brought forward a small cradle, delicately suspended by levitation crystals. Inside lay the infant, a child with violet eyes, shimmering hair, and a quiet aura that reflected both Varelian and human heritage. The room was silent, awed by the sight of the new life, a living proof that the impossible could indeed be possible. The council members could not look away. They had attempted to control, to manipulate, and to ridicule. Yet here was undeniable evidence that their assumptions had been flawed. The child's existence was a triumph of courage, trust, and ingenuity, qualities they had underestimated. Marcus stepped forward and spoke, his voice calm but firm. Citizens of Virelia, this child represents more than biology. It represents hope, partnership, and the understanding that strength is not defined by origin, species, or expectation. It is defined by action, courage, and heart. Liara smiled at him, a smile that conveyed gratitude, respect, and quiet affection. Marcus has taught me that life is not limited by rules or labels, and together, we have discovered what is possible when trust and understanding guide us. The audience erupted in quiet applause, hesitant at first, then growing louder. Citizens who had doubted humans now looked at Marcus with admiration. Scholars and engineers whispered about his ingenuity during the storm and the ceremonial challenge. Even the council began to recognize the value of perspective, courage, and collaboration beyond their rigid traditions. High Chancellor Varen finally stepped forward, clearing his throat. Princess Liara. Captain Marcus. It seems we were wrong in our assumptions. Perhaps we underestimated humans. Perhaps we underestimated the power of partnership and trust. Liara inclined her head, accepting the acknowledgement without arrogance. Mistakes in judgment can teach valuable lessons. Today we show that collaboration, respect, and courage can surpass even the strictest expectations. Lady Myra stepped forward, a hint of humility in her voice. And perhaps we have underestimated the potential within ourselves and the possibilities that lie in unity rather than isolation. Marcus and Liara exchanged a quiet glance. Without words, they understood that the Council's rigidity had been challenged, that change was beginning, and that the path ahead could now include understanding, cooperation, and hope. As the ceremonies concluded, Liara held her child close. The infant cooed softly, a small sound that carried more meaning than words ever could. Marcus stood beside her, gently supporting her arm, their partnership evident in every movement. In the following weeks, the palace and city began to adapt to this new reality. Citizens spoke openly about the accomplishments of Marcus and Liara, celebrating the courage and ingenuity that had brought hope and life. Engineers incorporated human ideas into palace systems. Scholars studied the combination of Varelian and human approaches to problem-solving. And most importantly, the Council slowly began to embrace the lessons of humility, respect, and adaptability. Liara's confidence continued to grow. She no longer viewed herself as limited by biology or tradition. She had discovered that strength came from courage, understanding, and the willingness to trust, and that sometimes the improbable could become reality through dedication and hope. Marcus, ever humble, continued to support her. He offered guidance, protection, and partnership, but never overshadowed her independence. Together, they explored new ways to integrate human ideas with Varelian knowledge, creating systems, practices, and methods that benefited the entire society. The child grew quickly, a symbol of the bond between two worlds. Citizens and diplomats marveled at the harmonious blend of human curiosity and Varelian intelligence reflected in the infant's every gesture. Liara and Marcus taught the child gently, encouraging exploration, creativity, and empathy, qualities that would carry the next generation forward. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the floating city, Marcus and Liara stood on the palace balcony, their child resting peacefully in Liara's arms. The city shimmered below, bathed in silver light. "It is remarkable," Liara said softly, "to think that it all began as a joke, an expectation of failure, and now we have life, hope, and change." Marcus nodded, eyes reflecting pride and quiet wonder. "It is proof that courage, trust, and intelligence can defy expectation, and that life often surprises us in the most incredible ways." Liara smiled, her heart full. "I once believed I was limited, but now I see that possibility is endless when we choose to act with hope and courage." Marcus placed a hand on hers. "And together we will continue to face challenges, explore the unknown, and build a future that reflects what we have learned. Strength, partnership, and understanding." The palace was quiet, but the city beyond hummed with life. Citizens spoke in hushed tones about the human who had defied expectation, the princess who had embraced possibility, and the child who represented a future that was brighter, more hopeful, and united. Even the council, once rigid and unyielding, began to embrace change. They saw that assumptions could be wrong, that humility and openness could create strength, and that collaboration between species could bring innovation and life to Virelia in ways they had never imagined. The story of Marcus and Liara became a symbol across the planet. It was told in schools, shared in ceremonies, and celebrated in private homes. Children learned that courage, intelligence, and empathy could surpass expectations. Adults reflected on the lessons of humility and the importance of trust. And everywhere, the bond between humans and Varelians grew stronger, built on respect, partnership, and shared experience. As the twin moons reached their zenith, Marcus and Liara gazed at the sky together. Their child stirred in Liara's arms, cooing softly, a gentle reminder of the journey that had brought them to this moment. "The joke," Liara said quietly, "was never on us. It was on those who failed to see the truth, that life, courage, and partnership can create miracles." Marcus smiled, a quiet warmth in his eyes. "And now we have the chance to live them." The city shimmered beneath them, golden and silver light reflecting the possibilities of the future. The council, the citizens, and the generations to come would remember this time as a turning point, a moment when courage, Ingenuity and empathy overcame expectation, and when a human and a princess defied the odds to create life, hope, and a brighter future. And so, Princess Liara returned not only as a mother but as a symbol of possibility. Marcus, the human who had been chosen as a joke, became a hero and partner in a new era for Viralia. Together they had proven that the